What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is going to be the NASCAR playoffs are worse than you thought. Now, I've expressed this in quite a few videos when I've done NASCAR. I haven't done one in a while, but I don't understand the playoffs. I've never understood it, mainly because I've never looked into it, but it does seem to be a very unorthodox way of determining a winner, pretty much. I get that you could say you have playoffs in soccer and stuff like that, which I understand because I've been growing up to that. The NASCAR one, I don't fully understand. People have tried to explain it to me. It's never stuck from the comments. So we're going to be reacting to the NASCAR playoffs are worse than you thought by Slap Shoes, because I'm assuming this is going to at least give me a breakdown, because I believe we're currently in the playoffs at the moment for NASCAR. I've been following it a little bit in the background on Discord, but I haven't actually been doing any videos on it. Round 8, that's what I got told, like the last 8 we're down to apparently. So if I can learn it now, I'll be able to understand going into the final stages of it. In the comments, guys, let me know who you think's going to win it this year. Put your prediction down below and we'll come back to it when there is a winner. There's only a few people you can decide from, so it shouldn't be too hard to pick. A lot of you should get it right, but let me know your winner in the comments. Hit that like button if you like this content and you want to see more of it. The more you like it, the more you comment, the more I know you want to see this type of content. Smash that subscribe button as well, you absolute legends. And let's see why the NASCAR playoffs are worse than you thought. They're confusing to me. I'm not saying they're bad, but we'll find out my opinion at the end. Link to this channel will be in the description, by the
Okay,
way.
so before I begin on the main thesis for this video, let me ask you a question. What is the point of a year-end championship in any sport? Now, the answer to this might seem so obvious that you probably feel like you lost brain cells just uttering it out loud. Clearly, it is to determine who the best team or player in a given sport was that particular season. Easy.
Yeah.
But the methodology in determining the champion varies from sport to sport. Perhaps the most fair championship format in any sport would be the English Premier League, where the champion is decided by points. Every team faces every other teams a few times at home and away, and you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss.
Which is the way I see it as well. That is technically the fairest, I believe. In terms of if you want to go to a team, you are the best over a long period of time, you win it. I think it is the fairest. But I do enjoy the playoffs in American football, in hockey, because it gives people who haven't been as consistent a chance. It may not be as fair on the teams that have won all the regular season's game, but it gives them a chance, and it gives you that time of year, which is super exciting. So I do like that. But if you're going off fair enough, I think the soccer version is definitely the most fair.
Whoever has the most points at the end of the season wins the title. While this system pretty much leaves no room for doubt as to which team was the best in the league that year, it can feel a little bit anticlimactic, as it's easy for the best team to clinch the title weeks before the last days of competition. So most sports opt to use a playoff format. You have a regular season where teams face off against as many different opponents as possible, and then the ones with the best record go to the playoffs, a tournament-style bracket. You fight through the bracket until just one team is left, and all is settled. But playoffs aren't perfect. Some teams take advantage of the format and get way further than they should due to a few favorable matchups, and every once in a while, a team that should have been eliminated early ends up winning it all. But therein lies the balancing act that all sports have to pull off. At what point do you sacrifice the fairness of a sport for entertainment? The more chaotic you make it, the more people might be interested in watching it, but the more chaotic it is, the less legitimate the champion seems. Playoffs are fun, but rather arbitrary for a sport like, say, baseball, where you could play every other team in the league 5 times and still play fewer games than they do right now. But what happens when a sport goes full send on the entertainment factor of its championship, and throws aside any legitimacy it might have had before? Well, there's no need to speculate because NASCAR has already done just that.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay, so we've got round 16, 12, 8, 4, and winner. Okay.
The NASCAR playoff system began its life in its first iteration in 2004, with the Chase. Previously, the NASCAR champion was determined by a straight-up point system. Whoever had more points at the end of the season was the winner.
That's how the F1 do it. Okay, so I completely understand that model. You get points for winning a race, and then the F1, again, you guys are probably familiar with it, but they had double points on the last race of the season. So if it is super tight, no one's run away with it, there is a chance that an upset could happen.
The higher you finish in each race, the more points you got. Simple as that. The idea behind the creation of the Chase was that in order to make the final leg of the 36 race season more entertaining and draw in a bigger TV audience, after 26 races, the points would be reset, and only the top 10 would be placed in the Chase. Those 10 would be the only ones eligible for the championship, and the points leader at week 26 would be given 5 points above second. Second would be given 5 points above third, and so on. It was
Okay.
controversial when it was introduced, as it was obvious
Interesting.
what NASCAR was trying to do. Make a point system that guarantees a compelling points race to drum up interest in the closing weeks of the season where they now had to compete against football for ratings. And despite all its detractors, that first season went well. Jeremy Mayfield had a clutch win at the cutoff race to just barely squeak his way into the chase, and Kurt Busch narrowly avoided disaster to finish just 8 points ahead of Jimmy Johnson and claim the crown. At the time, it was the closest points battle in NASCAR history, but fans put a big ol' asterisk next to it because the chase had pretty much manufactured this, as intended. But after a year or two, the system began to get exploited. By the time we got to the end of the summer, the playoff field was pretty much set. Guys were locking themselves in early, and then they would just kind of cruise around, not really racing hard and just waiting for the playoffs to start.
Yeah, see, again, that is another thing you risk. People just be like, yeah, I'm in. It doesn't matter what I do now. I'd like to win a race, but I might actually just enjoy life until
Johnson
then.
and Chad Knaus broke the chase system over their knee with a sickening crack, as they would essentially just use the first 26 races as a testing and tuning session, lock up 10th in the points, and then turn on the Jets in the final 10 races. They won the championship 5 seasons in a row from 2006 to 2010. And by the time 2011 came around, a worrying trend had emerged. Ratings were down, not just in the chase, but across the board. If this was supposed to draw in new fans, it was not working. But then there was the 2011 championship battle, in which the most consistent driver all year by a wide margin, Carl Edwards, was edged out in the final 10 races. Tony Stewart had been garbage in the first 26 races, going winless and had just barely limped into the chase. He was so bad that by the time of the Bristol night race he had said, "Guys, if we somehow make it into the chase, we are only taking a spot away from somebody who actually deserves to be there." But then Tony Stewart took full advantage of the points reset, cobbled together 5 wins in 10 races, and tied Carl Edwards in the point standings at the end of the year. The tiebreaker, whoever had the most wins. Tony had 5, Carl had just 1. So now the chase was a...
That's heartbreaking. You know what I mean? Again, like I said, you've been the most consistent, the better driver. That driver's even admitted he don't deserve to be there, but I mean, if you're competitive, it doesn't matter whether you deserve to be there or not. You're going to go for the win. But that is heartbreaking for Carl Edwards.
Crapshoot. You could flounder around all year, but so long as you could put together a good final 10 races, you could be champion. Making those first 26 events pretty meaningless.
Yeah.
NASCAR and the media never seemed to put it together. By trying to make things more interesting for the championship, NASCAR had sacrificed the weight and meaning of individual races in the regular season. Wins are fun, but ultimately they don't mean as much as they used to in the first 2/3 of the year, so people just had more of a reason to completely check out. But in 2014, NASCAR doubled down on the format with what we have now, the playoffs. The chase field was originally 10 drivers, but then it was expanded to 12 in 2007, with 2 wildcard slots given to whoever was outside the top 10 but had the most wins. But for the 2014 format, the field was expanded to 16 drivers. That way, NASCAR could do a knockout style of playoffs. The first 3 races of the playoffs would be the round of 16. After those 3 races, the top 12 in the points would advance. 3 races later, the top 8 in points would advance, and after another 3 races, we would be whittled down to just 4 for the last race.
Okay, it's every 3 races. That is something I didn't understand. I just thought it was every race. And I was like, that's brutal, man. Every 3 races makes a bit more sense because you could crash out and then you could come back in another one and have a good finish. I like it a little bit. Like, it's a bit more understanding, and it's not the end of the world. It's like there's 3 more races, but I guess the whole thing of the earlier races are still pretty pointless. Yes, it's entertaining. Yes, you can enjoy watching it and you can have an awesome race. But does it mean much? Because you win 1 race and then you're potentially in. You know what I mean? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Highest finisher of that race wins the cup. Sound confusing? Well, we're not done yet. We now have a win in your in system. Win a race in the first 26 events to lock yourself into the playoffs.
Oh, wow, you're actually in if you win. Never mind, you got a load of points, you're actually in. Oh, wow. Yeah, if you win the first race, you just cruise until then, surely.
Likewise for the championship rounds. Win a race in the round of 12, for instance, and you can automatically advance to the round of 8. There are also playoff points for the highest finishers of every race in the regular season that count towards your total in the playoff rounds. So now there's 2 point systems to worry about. If you have to pause this video and rewatch it to understand what I'm saying right now, don't worry, I had to go back and make sure I had all of it right because even I, a diehard NASCAR fan, can barely keep up with it. Good luck trying to explain this to any layperson. It's so bad that NASCAR had to hire celebrities for an ad campaign just to clarify how the hell it all works.
Wow.
And all throughout this playoff format, ratings continued to tank because of one very basic thing. The playoff field was just way too big.
I mean, not even that it's too big. I think in any sport, people watch sport for enjoyment and to get a bit of excitement away from their troubles. You forget about your troubles. You watch sport, it's passion, enjoyment, excitement. But when it's getting too confusing, it becomes a bit of a chore when you're trying to figure it all out. Again, let me know your opinions in the comments, but if you don't even understand it and people are struggling to understand it, all that's kind of zapped because you're like, well, this race doesn't actually matter. And then trying to put it together, well, he's won, he won't even focus for the rest of it because he's won one race. Again, let me know your comment. I still enjoy watching it, but is that a point? Like, it's becoming a bit more of a chore to figure out 1-2 point systems, and the first races are kind of irrelevant because a lot of people can get in anyway. And if 16 people win races, you're in.
We have 36 full-time charter teams and 16 playoff slots. That's nearly half the league qualifying for the title. When the MLB announced that they wanted to expand their playoff field, fans quickly let them know on social media that it was a bad call, and many even cited NASCAR as an example of why expanded playoffs don't work. But in 2020, due to the virus, the MLB expanded the playoffs anyway to deal with the shortened season, and ratings went down. Shocker, I know. Sanctioning bodies seem to have forgotten one very basic thing. People don't watch playoffs because they're playoffs.
They're watching because it's exciting. It's the best of the best.
People watch playoffs because they want to watch the best teams competing against each other.
Yeah.
The only way to expand the playoff field is to bring in worse teams and thus have worse games where we all know the outcome far ahead of time. The better team usually wins, and those wildcard teams more often than not don't make it too far. The first 2 rounds of the NASCAR playoffs are spent eliminating drivers who we know have no hope of winning the cup. The first 6 of 10 races in the playoffs are spent doing busy work, and people just stop paying attention. Plus, the win in your in format is just begging for middle-of-the-road drivers who snooker a win to fill up tournament space, only so they can be eliminated early. And with that system, there's no incentive to race hard once you've locked yourself in. It creates meaningless busy work for drivers to slog through, and they in turn just kind of wait the season out. The only thing stopping drivers from just staying at home and sleeping in on Sundays is a rule saying that drivers have to attempt every race throughout the year. But NASCAR plays pretty fast and loose with that rule, as there's always some mid-season chicanery that throws a wrench into the system. In 2015, Kyle Busch was injured in the first week at Daytona. He took several weeks off to recover, got a waiver for NASCAR, won a bunch of races, got into the playoffs, and won the Cup.
Oh, wow, what a return from injury. That's understandable. If you get injured and you can make it back in the season, like, come on. He's got injured doing that sport. Let him off. I like that.
A guy who didn't even compete in all the races won a NASCAR championship. Absolutely unthinkable in the era before the playoffs. For any motorsport, that is just insanity. And in 2000,
it is insane he can win it. I love that he can come back, but to win it, it's like, wow, you've missed half a season. You haven't even done with races. People have been doing it every week, and you've been chilling. Not chilling, you've been in pain, but you haven't been racing. You haven't been competing. And you just come in and win it.
19, Ross Chastain, who had no intention of competing in the Truck Series full-time, got a waiver so he could compete in the Truck Series playoffs when a full-time ride opened up for him. And Tyler Ankrum missed the first few races of the season because he was under the age of 18. Once old enough to compete at the big tracks, he was granted a waiver. Well, just because. NASCAR just hands out waivers like candy, and attempting all the races is more of a suggestion than an actual rule at this point. Hell, in that same year, Matt Crafton won the title despite not winning a race. A system that was specifically designed to emphasize winning above all else gave the Truck Series its first winless champ.
That's
and
incredible.
Don't think that was just a freak accident. In 2014, the very first year of the playoffs, Ryan Newman was in the Final Four despite not having won a race all year. And at the last race, he was one pass away from taking the title from Harvick. Had he been passed after that, he would have been the Cup Series' first winless champ. That very first season should have told us that this system was not going to work. All of this eats away at the legitimacy of the sport. We all know what's happening here. We're trying to get those Game 7 moments. But when you have a system that is so contrived that it creates those outcomes all the time, they cease to be special. Game 7 moments are only memorable because they don't happen that often. When you have them all the time, they just sort of all bleed together, and now none of them are special. Even Kevin Harvick, who had an absurd average finish in 2020 of 7.3 and 9 wins on the year, said, "These championships aren't like the ones Petty and Earnhardt won. I'd rather go out there and win races." And if he doesn't care, why should we?
I love that as well, just speaking out and saying, yeah, I just want to win legit. I want to go out and win races, earn my points, and at end of season go, you were the best driver. Like, imagine if Denny Hamlin, again, I haven't been watching it too much recently, but from the start of the season, Denny Hamlin was ridiculous. I know a lot of people don't like him, but he was ridiculous. He was up there all the time. Imagine if he don't win it. It's just like, he has been, by far, from what I've seen, the best driver there. And he may not win it. Someone potentially could win it who hasn't even won this season. Again, I don't know who's actually left in it, so again, update me in the comments. But the fact that you can have that contrast, I think, honestly, again, this is my opinion, and it may be completely wrong, and please educate me and correct me in the comments. But a point system just makes so much more sense. Every race is going to be battled for. If you know it's a simple point system, you get this many for a win, this many for second, this many for third, every single race, yes, you may have somebody who's won it. like a couple of weeks in advance. But every race is going to be hard because you're fighting for places every week. Every race matters. You know what I mean? Let me know in the comments your thoughts.
Ratings have stabilized in 2019 and 2020 for the regular season races, but the final 3 races of the year are still in a tailspin. These are the money races. These are the Game 7 moments, and fans just don't care. But the playoffs do something more insidious than just chipping away at the legitimacy of the sport. It's actually encouraging poor performance from the drivers. Throughout the chase and the playoff eras, the average finish of the champion has steadily gotten worse. I averaged out all the average finishes of the champion every year since 1990, and since we put a bigger emphasis on winning at certain times and not stringing together a good season on the whole, the year-long performance of NASCAR champions is getting worse and worse. But take a look at this. The best average finish in a season has remained relatively unchanged. Guys are still putting together solid seasons, it's just they're not getting rewarded for it. Under the old Winston Cup format, average finish was usually a pretty good indicator of who was going to walk away with the title. From 1990 to 2003, the guy with the best average finish walked away with the cup all but 4 times. Those 4 drivers who didn't were Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, and Mark Martin. Ugh, we literally just got...
Oh, Mark Martin's. Oh, he's got to be good. Surely he's been absolutely done over.
I'm talking about this. Just give me a minute.
Like, he must be absolutely good, man.
Okay, that's better. Where was I? Oh, right. In the Winston Cup era, average finish had pretty good odds of determining who would be the champion. But in the playoff era, the best average finish has corresponded with the eventual champion only 2 times. Martin Truex in 2017 and Kyle Busch in 2019. The other 5 out of 7 times, a far worse driver took advantage of the format and snookered the cup from somebody more deserving. But brutal. I can already hear the playoff loyalists in the comments. So what? You have to win where it counts. If you can't perform when it matters the most, you don't deserve to be champ. You know what? That argument might hold some weight if it weren't for the fact that you can actually win a race by sheer frickin' accident in NASCAR. Racing is just way too chaotic to adhere to that mindset. You're not just competing against one other driver. You're battling nearly 40 other guys and gals all at the same time.
Yeah, like we've seen in like the Daytona when McDowell won and stuff like that. Just one crash kills the field pretty much, and one driver can go through who was nowhere near the entire time and steal the win. Imagine if that determined the whole thing. If you've been racing a season, you've been nowhere near, and then a crash gets you through and you win it. It's so chaotic and so unpredictable. I agree, you kind of can't say win when it matters. And if you're going to say win when it matters, say every race matters. Win every race, and then you win it.
There's way too much that could go wrong. One person could have a grudge against you and take you out. You could get caught up in somebody else's mistake. A mechanical failure could sideline you. Hell, even the weather could kneecap you. Just go ask Justin Haley how much weather affects racing. So long as we make the championship hinge on a single race at the end of the year, it becomes almost inevitable that weather will play a factor one day. If a race gets past halfway and it can't be restarted in a reasonable amount of time, then whoever was ahead at the point of caution will be the winner. Now, the final race has moved to Phoenix, so you'd think a race in the desert would make this a non-factor. But just this year in 2020, just an hour or 2 after the last race was concluded, rain moved in and drenched the track. Hell, in November of 2015, Dale Jr. won his final race at a rain-shortened event in Phoenix. Motorsports is just way too chaotic to have finales like this. At least in the old points format, if it came down to the final race, you could always say you had all year to get ahead and build yourself a cushion, but you didn't take advantage of that. But in the playoff format, any cushion you could construct is unnecessarily demolished in the pursuit of entertainment. There's too much that could go wrong in motorsports. The only way to bring any semblance of order to it is in the aggregate. You might get lucky once or twice, but you are not going to get lucky 36 weeks in a row. The laws of nature and mathematics just won't allow it. The more races you run, the more apparent it becomes who the best driver all season is. The only system that makes any sort of sense is a year-end points total. It's almost like the people who built the points formats in motorsports in the 40s and 50s knew what they were doing. Now, you may be unpersuaded. You may like the playoff format as it stands right now, but I implore you to reconsider. This isn't a matter of opinion anymore. This isn't just me bitching and complaining into a mic on YouTube. This is an undisputed fact. The playoffs are actively hurting the sport.
It makes sense.
If the playoffs were supposed to maintain interest and keep old fans, it failed. If it was supposed to draw in new fans with added drama, it failed. If it was still supposed to crown a deserving champion, it failed. If it was supposed to make races more interesting, it failed. What do you call something that has not achieved a single one of its stated objectives and in fact has done the opposite?
I'm going to guess a failure. That's my guess. Like, it's been absolutely brutal on this. It makes sense. It is one of them. We did say about the soccer and stuff like that. You get a deserved win at the end. I feel like the same in F1. You should have that in NASCAR. I'm not hating on NASCAR. I really enjoy it. That is just my opinion. And again, like I've said, correct me in the comments. Um, but this way you do it. I suppose it adds that excitement, but it kind of just adds that the other races don't matter as much if you finished high, which is a little bit
You
disappointing.
call it a failure. There is simply no other word to describe the playoffs.
Brutal, man. Brutal.
But complaining without offering up a solution ultimately serves no purpose, so let me offer up a fitting alternative. Many have said that a year-end points format has no place in the current day, that it's outdated and would never work. But I disagree. Call me a boomer, call me a purist or a traditionalist, but literally every other motorsport in the world has this format. And it makes sense because it provides order to the chaotic world of auto racing. At the end of the day, you dance with the one that brought you to prom. The year-end points format brought us to the highest of highs. Maybe it could bring us back and rebuild the dam of legitimacy. Now, one thing isn't going to fix the tailspin of popularity that NASCAR is in. That ship sailed years ago. But it could help right the sinking ship. My solution is to absolve the playoffs and go back to the Winston Cup points format, with a few fixes. First, I want to give a bigger points payoff for wins. Back in the day, wins were treated just as what they were, one position above second. The differential between first and second was the same as between fourth and fifth, 5 points. For my format, I'm putting 10 points between first and second, then 5 points between every other position. If you win, that's 200 points. If you finish 39th, that's 5 points, and then one final point for 40th, as a thanks for showing up consolation prize. But I'm also bringing back bonus points. 5 points for leading a lap, 5 points for leading the most laps, 5 points for winning the pole on qualifying day, 5 points for the fastest lap of the race, 5 points for the fastest 4-tire pit stop of the race, and
I don't know about the fastest pit stop. That's a bit of a random one, but then I guess it's a team game at the end of the day, so if your team's doing well, but then it's kind of one of them, it's like, well, if you've got a fastest pit stop, it should get you more points in the thing, so should you be rewarded by that? I don't know about that one, but I like the lead in the lab. I like the stage winners. I completely agree with that.
You can keep stages around for 5 points for first, 4 points for second, and so on. The only difference is I'm not throwing a caution for stages. That way we can encourage pit strategies and keep the normal ebb and flow of a race. This system not only encourages drivers to race up front all year, but all throughout the race as well. With so many points available, it'll be interesting to see what strategies get cooked up in the crucible of competition. Now, is this system perfect? Of course not. No system is. But it is far and away more fair than the current system and not full of silly bullshit. Plus, it's got a pretty good track record. So many of NASCAR's problems today stem from trying to reinvent the wheel. So for once, let's go back to what worked. I mean, what else do we honestly have to lose at this point?
It's not broken, don't fix it, my friend. If it's not broken, do not fix it.
Couldn't hurt. Anyway, I'm Slapshoes. Thanks for watching, and until next time, y'all take it easy.
Well, there we go. I now know how it works. Again, I've said my opinion throughout this. Please let me know your opinions in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I will be checking them out. If you've enjoyed this video, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. You're absolute legends. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.